This video is about how to make a basic auto splitter. The first thing we're going to cover are actions. There's several actions in the ASL language. The ones I'm going to cover in the video are listed right there. In this next part, I'm going to cover state descriptors, which are the most important part of your script. And there at the bottom of the screen, you can see how an action is laid out in your script. State descriptors, like I said before, are the most important part of your script. If you don't have a state descriptor in your script, then your script is just an empty shell. At the bottom of the screen, you can see what a state descriptor looks like. The next thing we'll cover is initialization, which is init in your script. Initialization is triggered whenever your game has been found by using your state descriptors. Initialization can occur more than once during the execution of your script, so whenever you restart it, it can do things like that. It's useful for setting variables and other things that are like variables, and yeah. The next thing we'll cover is update. Update always happens first in your script, and it happens a certain amount of times per second. I think by default it happens 30 times per second or 60 times per second. Update also happens whenever the timer is not running. At the bottom of the screen, just like everything else, you can see what update looks like inside of your script. The next thing we're going to cover is startup. Startup is triggered whenever your script first loads. In startup, you can put things that don't really rely on your game being open. Startup is also the only place where you can put things like custom options. At the bottom of the screen, you can see me putting in custom options, and on the right side of the screen, you can see the output of those custom options. Keep in mind that in this version of LiveSplit, you can only have Boolean options, so options that are either true or false. The next thing we're going to cover is split, which is probably one of the things that most people are looking for whenever they make an auto splitter. Split does what it sounds like, it just splits your timer, and it's also pretty important because it's the thing that stops your timer. At the bottom of the screen, you can see another example of what split looks like, and whenever you return true, it will split. The next thing we're going to cover is reset, which is almost like split, but a little bit different. Reset does what it sounds like, it resets the timer whenever you return true, and yeah. The final thing we're going to cover is loading, which is used for making loadless times. Basically, whenever you return true in isLoading, it will pause your game time, and whenever you return false, it will resume your game time if it's paused. Notice that it doesn't affect your real time at all, so you'll have separate real time from your game time. At the bottom of the screen, you can see, like everything else, another example of what isLoading looks like in your script. And here's a couple of side notes. The ASL language is just a modified version of C#, which is a really big language. Everything in ASL is case sensitive. There is no need to update your ASL script whenever there are new updates of LiveSplit. And as you've probably guessed, there are way more actions than I've listed in this. I think you can even use some of them that are in C#. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all the things in this presentation and in the video are based off of the LiveSplit documentation. I highly recommend looking at the LiveSplit AutoSplitter documentation because it's a really good source of learning material. Now that we're done with this presentation, I'm going to actually get into making the script, and yeah, I'll see you there. Alright, so now we're actually here making the script. You can notice a couple of things. At the bottom right of the screen, there is my program. It's just a simple little program. If I click T, it changes the string, and it loops through 10 numbers in word form. Just for this video, I'm going to use the type of string, so string like that. And yeah. Also, another thing you're going to notice here is I have two programs open right here. This is Visual Studio Code. As a replacement, you could use Notepad++ or just Notepad. This is a very neat program. I like it, so I'm just going to use it. And then the other program we have here is Cheat Engine 6.7. It can be any version of cheat engine that you want. Just make sure it works, I guess. This is probably going to be really awkward for me talking, but I'm going to go for it. So open your program, and it can be a game if you want. It can be really anything that you want. Click this button right here to select process and cheat engine. Go down to the bottom and find your process. So mine is written in GameMaker Studio. And one sec, I'm going to close this PowerPoint. Probably should have done that before, but it doesn't really matter. So now you're going to notice that a couple of things have happened. Up here at the top, now I have a name for my process, and I can actually do scans and stuff now. So right here, it says autosplittertutorial.exe. So in this, what you want to do is copy paste your template into this, and it's really simple. It's just all the basic stuff you need. So I'm going to put in right here this name right here. So autosplitter tutorial. And then it automatically just does .exe or .dll as an extension. And that's, yeah. So it's just going to look for autosplittertutorial.exe, which is my game. So what we need is a value to look for. So say if it's a loading screen, then I need to look for the loading screen value. If it's an item pickup, I need to look up for the item pickup value. What I'm going to pretend like is that 1 is my main menu, and then 10 are my end credits, so I need to stop the timer before 10. And 1 is my main menu. So whenever I go to 2, then my timer starts. So yeah, I already have LiveSplit set up. As you can see over here on LiveSplit, everything's all set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the value of 1. So I'm going to go to cheat engine, and it is a string, which means it's words. So I'm going to look for a string. There's a lot of videos out there that explain this a lot better than I do, so I recommend looking at those. For this, I'm just going to look up this. So my string of text is 1. So I'm going to go first scan of 1. I'm going to go in my program and change it to 2. Change it to 2. Next scan. And I can keep going, but I know that these are always going to be the same. So I'm just going to pick one of these, which I'm going to pick the top one. And I'll do this thing called a pointer scan. So I'll double click this, get it in here, which is my address list. I'll right click it from here, and I'll go down to pointer scan for this address. It'll pop up this box and it'll do some stuff. So leave this all here and click OK. Now I want it to be in a folder. So I'm going to make a new folder for the location. You can't really see that, sorry. And I'll call it new folder, and then I'll name my pointer scan 1. I'll save it. It'll do this, and then it starts the scan. And I came up with 200,000 results, which is not nearly the amount I should have. I should have like 1 or 2, and then, yeah. But I'm going to close the program, the game, and I'll reopen the program. I'll pop over here, so I'm going to move it over here. And now I can go into cheat engine, hook it to my game again, and I'll notice that these aren't it. So I'm going to look for 1 on a new scan. Now I'll change the value, look for 2. Next scan. And now I know this isn't going to do anything, so I'm just going to double click it, and I'll do a pointer scan for this address. But wait, I already did a pointer scan, didn't I? So it's just going to come up with the same results, basically. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and then my last pointer scan that I did. It'll come up with that. So I'm going to pointer scan, rescan memory, and one sec. I'll go into here and pointer scans, they can't actually have the type as a string because it would probably just come up with a lot of things. So notice it's under 4 bytes. So I'm going to go to here and double click my last value that I got, change it from text to 4 bytes, and then here's a number right here. I'm going to double click the number, copy it, go into my previous pointer scan, rescan the memory, value defined, and then the value. I know I did that really quickly, but if you just rewatch it a couple times, you're probably going to get that. Sorry, that's all I can say. And now you'll notice I'm down to 24,000 results, and there's a lot of things here, like a ton of things here. If you keep repeating that process over and over again, you'll come up with a number like a couple of thousand. And pointer scanning is genuinely the most difficult thing for making an auto splitter. I know it's really difficult. Is this it? No, this is one I did earlier. I'll open one I know I have done. Here it is. So if you keep doing that over and over again, you'll end up with a number like 4,000 or maybe even under 100, and that's really good. It's really reliable. The reason why you need a pointer is because if you close your game and reopen your game, bound to be that the value you found in here is going to be different. So you need a pointer to look for a value that should be right. And I'll just choose this one. It seems like a good pointer. Just double click the name, and then it'll come up down here. We don't need that anymore. Now is the point where we can actually start editing the script. So over here, whenever you found a pointer scan that you can like rely on, double click the address and it will come up with this. And we can see it says autosplitter.exe plus this, and then there's a ton of 8, 60, 430, 38. We already know that autosplitter tutorial.exe is our state, so we don't need autosplitter tutorial.exe in this. If there's a DLL file and the state isn't a DLL, so like if it's like hx audio is your name and that's .dll, I forgot what I was trying to explain. All we need for this is this. To put a string in your script, you write string and then however long you want it to be. So like 45 is a good number to have, or like 128. It just depends on how many letters are in the string that you need. For this, I'm going to do 10. For other things like numbers, you can do like this, and then the name of it would be like ASDDD, and then colon, and then stuff like that. But for a string, it's just string, length of the string, and then the name. So I'm going to do text. And then after this, you need a colon. And then these are the pointers, like the pointer offsets is what they're called. So I'm going to go down here, copy this, paste it, and after the first 0, I'm going to put an X, which is something a little bit odd. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not that great at making auto splitters, and this is just for beginners, so I don't really have a great explanation on why you put the X there. The next thing we do is we go from bottom to top, and we put a 0, X, and then the number of what it is. So this is the offset 1, offset 2, offset 3, offset 4. Or offset 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'm in. We need commas after each one of these, so I'm just going to do 0x60, 0x430, 0x38. And then at the end, we need a semicolon to just say that we ended the line. Now, I don't think, I might close the game. I might not. I'll just keep it open and I'll do that. So now what we can do is we can start some stuff. So I'm going to set a variable in initialization. Like I explained before in the presentation at the beginning of the video, you can put variables in here. The way we put variables in is by doing vars dot and then like a variable name, and then it equals and then 1 or something like that. Or you can say var string and then equals a string of like word. For this, I'm just going to vars.split equals 0. This is just so we can keep track of whatever we want. I don't think I'm actually going to have that. It's just a nice thing to know that you can put variables in here, and then you can check and you can change variables depending on other things. So, oh yeah, actually I'll put in an update. So if something happens in update, so let's say our current text. So there are two types of these pointer values. So there's current or old. So if old.text and then is equal to, if you're saying it's equal to something, put 2 of these. If you're setting it to something, only put 1. Which in one of these you can't actually do that. So if current text is equal to 2, or if old text is equal to 1. So I'll do that in here. And then the way we do and is 2 ampersands, or amster. I don't remember the word for those signs. These signs right here that stand for and. And old.text equals 1. Then it will do something. So the way we do that is we put those, and then let's say vars.split equals 1. And yeah. What I'll actually have is I'll copy this, and I'm not going to have anything in update. Actually, kind of do need something in update. This is a really messy video, by the way. I was trying to be organized with the presentation and everything, but it's going to turn out really messy. I'm sorry. I'll just copy what I have over in my finished version. So it's just going to say, so if our current text is 1, then the split is 0. Over in the startup, we can add options by doing settings.add. So settings.A add, and then the name of your option that doesn't appear. So I'm just going to do option 1, and then you need to this. This is whether it is set to true by default or is false by default. So I'm just going to set this to true by default. And then the name that will appear to the users of the ASL. So I'm going to say load removal. You can actually have load removal built in, so this is kind of a pointless option. You can also have parents, which I'm not going to cover in this, so you can segment your options into different groups. So I'm going to add a tooltip, which a tooltip is basically you hover over the option, it will display a text, like a description. So settings.add the name of the option, which is right here, the actual name of the option. Option 1. And what the tooltip is. So I'm going to say enables load removal. And yeah, to actually access the options, what we can do, so we can say this. So like say if the setting and then the brackets, the name of the actual option, then it does something. And yeah, it's really hard to explain. Trust me, it's really hard to explain. what's the next thing we're doing? Start. So what I'm going to do is in the start, we're going to say if the current text is equal to 2 and our old text is equal to 1. I don't know why I put that. Then it will start the timer. So to start the timer, we need it to return true. And I could also have it do this. So I'm going to say bars dot split plus equals 1, which basically means we're going to add 1 to our variable split. This doesn't really serve a purpose because I'm not checking for a variable split anywhere, but it's just a neat thing to know. Also, if you're setting variables in your start or your split or your reset, what you want to do is have it happen before it returns true, because if it happens after it returns true, it's basically invalid and it won't work. So it just doesn't read it because it ends the action. The next thing we're going to cover is split. So the way I'm going to do this is if our current text isn't our old text, then it splits. So it's just a lot easier to do. So if current.text does not equal this exclamation point right here, just stands for not. Another way we could do this is like this. Text. Instead of having the exclamation point here, we could have it right here. But I'm just used to doing it like that. And let's have it return true whenever it does that. So, and I'll also have it add 1 to the split. Another thing I didn't show off in the program, here I'll show you right now, is that there is actually a number side, so an actual number side to the program where I can add 3 and things like that. And if I hit R, it'll reset the entire game. So the controls for this game are in the text document if you want to actually know how to do it. All the programs that I'm using in this are free, so just keep that in mind. This program actually comes in the zip file that's in the link in the description below that I haven't pointed out, but it's there, trust me. So T changes the text, and U changes it from numbers to words. Y adds 3 to your number. So I'll just reset there and change it. So if, okay, let's say if, actually let's not have this load removal. Let's have this reset at 9 or something. Resets when text is 9. So we can just test out the settings. So if current.text is equal to 9, actually I'll put this in these because it's actually a string, then it will return true. And let's also have it set the variable split to 0. Remember, whenever you're setting it, you want it to have an equal sign, not 2. So not like this, because that's checking to see if it's 0. This sets it to 0. And we'll have it return true. For loading, what we're going to do is we're going to have it, let's say whenever it's 6, then it will be a loading screen. So like whenever the number is 6, it's going to be a loading screen. So if current.text is equal to 6, then we need it to return true. Another thing that we need in isLoading, like I covered in the presentation, if we just have isLoading like this and we get 6, it's going to stay on isLoading for the rest of eternity. You know, it's never going to stop being a loading screen. So if our current text is not 6, we're going to have it unpause the timer for game time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use a thing called else. So it's basically saying if this, then it does this, or else it does this. So we're going to do else, and there's a fancy little thing there in this program which just does that, and we're going to say return false, which I think this is one of the only actions that you actually return false in. So yeah. By now our script should actually work. So we're going to save it, and we'll hop on over here into LiveSplit, which you can't see. So I'll hop on over into LiveSplit, right click it, edit your layout, and then over here, scriptable auto splitter, search for it, find it, which mine is called simple.asl. And it did not work. The reason I know that it's not working is because these 3 options up here aren't available, and there are no options, which I've clearly made options right there. A simple little thing can set off your script, so some of the time you just need to look for spelling errors or anything that might be simple. Alright, so I found the error right here. In startup I accidentally put settings.add. What I meant to do was settings.set tooltip. And now it should work. Hopefully. I may have made, yeah, there you go. So the error I made in the script right there was settings.add. I was trying to add the same option, which is option 1. So now you can see we have the ability to start, split, and reset. And we have the reset at 9 option, which if we hover over it, it resets the text whenever it's 9. So I'll just enable everything and click OK. You can uncheck all of these and you can reset to default. I'll just click OK. Click OK. I can close that now. And I'll actually just have the programs over here instead. So as you can see, our script is set to 1 right now. So if I hit T, it'll start the timer. And whenever I change, it will change, like splitting. And it'll do that for every single thing. What I can do is go over to here. It changes because it's a different thing, once again. It changes, and as you can see, we're on 6. And this timer is set to be the game time. By the way, that's why it's paused. Now, if I have it on here, it'll reset because it's 9. Because we have it to reset at 9. Also, I don't think I made that a thing. Yeah, okay. I didn't actually add that. This video is very messy. So I'm going to say if settings, and then we need brackets, those, and then another bracket. If settings, option 1, and that, then it does this. It's just seeing if this is true or false. So I'm going to save it again. Let's have the option disabled for once, and we'll see it not reset because we'll have the option disabled. So I'm going to go over here. This is how you change options, by the way. You just uncheck it. It checks if it's true or false, which is kind of one downside to using LiveSplit, but it's alright. It's easily able to be worked around. So if I change it, actually we need the old text to be 1. So timer starts. We go over here, and let's change it. Change it. It pauses the timer. Whenever we get on 9, it doesn't reset. So whenever I hit R, go over here. Oh man, look, 14 seconds flat. That's pretty good. Whenever you do that, you want to reset the timer, stuff like that. And we do have a working auto splitter now. It's very hard to make one of these for an actual game. I'll show you one that I made. It's very sloppy, but it's... Here is the auto splitter I made for a game called 13. It's very large. There's a lot of comments that are kind of unnecessary. Here's all the options that I have. Each one of these values took about 2 hours to find. At first I didn't know how to find memories, or not memories. At first I didn't know how to find values, so it was pretty hard at first. I have a variable for split. There's a ton of options for every single mission. And here's the start. And then here is the split. So it's just checking for literally every mission to be correct. It's pretty unnecessarily messy. And here's the loading screen. I don't have any automatic resets because there's no point in the game where I should automatically reset it. Automatically resetting is kind of annoying, actually. For some games, like shorter games, like 20-second long games, it's actually pretty cool and useful. For other games, it's not useful at all, like larger games that are hours long. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Yeah, that's how you make a basic auto splitter.